Good evening and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the history and geography of Adrar in Mauritania. Just real quick, this is my second take because the first time I filmed this, the audio didn't save and it filmed in portrait mode. It's a disaster, so I'm redoing it. So I'm gonna try my best not to rush through it. But here are the borders of Adrar. It's a pretty big area, isn't it? It takes up a big old chunk of Mauritania. And like I say, Mother Nature does not make straight lines, right? So whenever you see a straight line like this on a map, it means that it was drawn by humans. And typically when humans have to draw straight lines, it means there's nothing there to denote a boundary. And that's very true for Adrar. Pretty much all this area here is just desert. Just sand dunes as far as the eye can see. This is of course part of the Sahara Desert, the world's largest hot desert. You can see on this map there's little oases towns. And that's due to a very ancient nomadic culture that still exists today, but it's been around for forever, where nomads with their camels and goats would travel around the desert to find places to let their animals graze, and they would go from oasis town to oasis town to get water and stock up on their supplies. There's still people doing that to this day. It's pretty neat. Most of the people in Adrar live over here, which has a lot more underground water, so there's a lot more oases. It's also a very rocky area. I wouldn't call it a mountainous area. It's not quite mountainous, but it is very rocky, very hilly, I suppose. This is where you can find the capital city of Atar, right here. And there are many, many other ancient towns around here. Most of them are Kasawars, or Kasors, which just means it's an ancient walled city. They built a wall around it. In particular, in this video, we're going to talk about Chinguetti right here and Ouadane, because these two towns in particular are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So let me pull that up for you on my tablet. There are other towns in Mauritania that are part of this property, but we're just going to talk about the ones in Adrar, which again are Ouadane and Chinguetti. Let's read the description here. Ancient Kasawars of Ouadane and Chinguetti. Founded in the 11th and 12th centuries to serve the caravans crossing the Sahara, these trading and religious centers became focal points of Islamic culture. They have managed to preserve an urban fabric that evolved between the 12th and 16th centuries. Typically, houses with patios crowd along narrow streets around a mosque with a square minaret. They illustrate a traditional way of life centered on the nomadic culture of the people of the Western Sahara. And I'd show you the pictures, but most of them are of, I think it's of Ouadane actually. But this is typically what the architecture in Ouadane looks like. You can see the big square towers there, and the walled cities built entirely of stone. So like I said, it's a very rocky area. They would take those rocks, pile them up, and make their city out of them. Pretty cool. So these towns, sort of like it said, between the 9th and pretty much through like the 13th centuries, were trading centers for the traders coming from northern and what we consider Western Africa. For them, it would have been the south, right? In the salt and gold trade. So salt would be traded from the north, gold would be traded down here from the southern areas of Western Africa, right? They would meet in the middle, which would be pretty much right about here, trade their goods, and go back along their trade routes. And this was done for a very, very long time. And of course, when you're trading goods across long distances, you're also trading ideas. And that's how Islam was introduced into the area, and it is still the predominant religion today. In fact, I think it was Chincheri, I believe, was, well, not founded, I was about to say founded. It was it grew because it was a stopover or even a meetup spot for pilgrims traveling to Mecca. So out of all this, emptiness, it's good to travel in numbers, right? So you'd meet up here and head out toward the Arabian Peninsula. The main ancient, medieval, I suppose, society that would have ruled over this area was the Almoravid dynasty, which ruled most of what is today Morocco. It's spread out all over northern Africa and into Spain, but they were in control of this area here. And it was kind of just like Moroccan culturally influenced until the French moved in and colonized the area here. I believe it was French West Africa. I believe. Until, of course, Mauritania gained its independence, right? Now it's Mauritania. The only kind of modern things that have been going on in this area have to do with this neighbor up here. You can see there's Western Sahara. Still to this day, there are many people fighting for their independence from Morocco up here. We're not going to get too into the politics or why they're doing that, because when I last covered Morocco and Western Sahara, lots of people had opinions in the comments, and that's not what we're about today. But there were people who were crossing over the border, particularly right here into Mauritania, probably to get supplies or expand territory, and the French military would move in, and there's been some military conflict in this area here. Not any recent times, but there has been. Not to mention, global warming is really affecting this area. The Sahara, well, for one thing, the Sahara is expanding, which isn't really affecting Adrar because the Sahara covers pretty much all of it already. But the Sahara Desert is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. It seems like each year they're reaching new highs. Where in this area here it gets to about 50 degrees Celsius in the summertime. And for people who've never been in like extreme heat, have been living in areas where it gets extremely hot. I used to live in California where it would get that hot pretty regularly in the summertime, but we have things like pools and air conditioning. Here they do not. There is no escaping that heat in the daytime. Not to mention being in the Sahara region, you have sand blowing in the air. That kind of adds to it. And it's just, if you've never lived in that kind of extreme heat, it affects every aspect of your life. Going to school, working, traveling, even things like celebrations, it affects everything. So it makes life increasingly difficult in this part of Adrar. And that's pretty much all that I want to cover in the history section. Let me pull up Google Earth because there is something I do want to show you if you have not seen this area of Mauritania before. Alright, so there's something really neat. You might be able to spot it from here, but we're going to visit it last. So here you can see Adrar. I'm going to zoom out so you can see where exactly we are in the world. You can see the big, big Sahara Desert stretching over Africa. And Adrar makes up this big old chunk of it. But, like I said, when I zoom in to this area here, there is nothing there for miles and miles and miles. You can see some of the rocks up here in this area, but it gets a lot rockier down here. You can really see what not quite mountainous, but very rocky. And you can see how the desert winds have just blown over this area for hundreds of thousands of years, making this beautiful landscape. Let's start off by looking at pictures of Atar. Oop. Okay. Let's visit Atar up here, which is kind of the more quote-unquote modernized town of Adrar. You can see the buildings here aren't made of stone, right? Clay, modern things like that. They've got paved roads, nice new cars, beautiful acacia tree there. But yeah, like cobblestone areas to park your cars on, big roundabouts, telephones. So still a very kind of ancient feeling town, but compared to the rest of the towns in this area, it's the more modernized one. The old graveyard, I wonder if this is from the French times, because I'm pretty sure there's no Christians in the town today. Beautiful painted, colorful buildings here. And of course the Oasis, vital to life in this part of the world. This kind of looks like a bank logo, doesn't it? Or maybe like a money transfer kind of thing. I'm not sure. But let's move out of here. We're going to head into... I want to show you Ouadane over here. So this is the more ancient kind of towns. You can see this is an old mosque. At least the entrance to the mosque, right? Here's the house of Hajj Ali, the founder of the town. Or one of the founders of the town, it says. The old roads here between buildings, beautiful gates made of wood or the stone. It's so lovely. Beautiful, like Berber patterns drawn on the buildings there. And yeah, you can see this looks like a place that has not survived, but is all crumbled. All the stones have fallen. And just a very beautiful place. There's the desert, some plants growing from the underground water table. There's a road there, little stairs, the sand. A cute little guy. There you can see the big square minarets it was talking about. You can take a picture there. Have some tea and a little picnic. But yeah, you can see there's the speakers up there for the call to prayer. So here's the big square minarets, which, you know, when you think minaret, you usually think like tall round tower. It's not so in this part of the world. So tourists typically come to Ouadane because it's the nearest town to this geological marvel known as the Eye of the Sahara, or the Rashat structure. Move this out the way. It looks absolutely beautiful. It reminds me of like the rings of Saturn, right? It's so pretty. Nobody knew this was here until astronauts started circling the Earth, and we're like, what is that? There's a big old eye in the Sahara, and it was a mystery for a long time about what exactly this was. Of course, people were like, it's where UFOs landed, obviously, right? But we know now that this used to be a volcano, which over time, with the blowing harsh winds and sand of the Sahara, have squashed it down to it's completely flat. That's left there the markings of where a volcano once stood. And I covered this when I did a Mauritania video, but you know, if you just stand in it, you can't tell that you're in a remarkable piece of earth like this. It just looks very, very normal. So yeah, nobody knew this existed until we could go up high in the earth. It's pretty remarkable. So that is where I'm going to leave you for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please consider subscribing, because I'm doing a series where we're going to every little corner of the world. Next, we're going to be going to Russia. Very different landscape from this. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good